It's not for people who don't like small places. If you have tendencies towards claustrophobia, you would not be happy in a research submarine.
You've heard it suggested that at the rate we're destroying our environment, humans might one day have to immigrate undersea in these. The atmospheric pressures, total darkness, and no maneuverability, the dangers of being down this far in anything are obvious.
That's the only kind of submarine I want to get near. Small and playful. Nothing I actually have to crawl inside of. Now, I hope we never have to abandon life here and go undersea. But just in case we blow it, I'm glad that there are men like Dr. David Stein looking ahead. Meanwhile, I'm looking out for myself.
I'm curious. I like strange things. That's probably one reason that I've spent so much of my career working on very deep water fish, below 1,000 meters or 3,000 feet.
Dr. Stein and his team have come to look for life forms on a submerged mountain range. The bank, as it's called, is 1,000 feet down and 20 miles long, and there's only one way to get to it.
Up until the time that we actually started working out here, there was very little known about the bank itself. So we decided that we wanted to study this area using a submarine.
The yellow ship out there is the submersible Delta. It's a two-man sub. It's good to about 1,200 feet. It's been tested to 1,800 feet, but we use it 1,200 feet. And it's used mainly for scientific research projects all around the world.
In this project, the object is to find out what a proposed oil drilling scheme might do to the strange inhabitants of the sea floor, 30 miles off the Oregon coast. Finding the answers will mean going down in this sub 4 times a day for a week and a half.
What I think we will be able to do by the end of this project is we will know what occurs in what environments. The deepest I'm diving is must be about 350 meters, about 1,200 feet.
Just another tool to use in the ocean. It's a great tool because you really get down there and see it in person. It's a lot better than watching it on TV or doing it from a ship on the end of a cable, so it's the best way to get down. It is weather controlled somewhat, as we've seen this week. You know, if we have bad weather, heavy fog, then we can't dive. I suppose the most dangerous part of any diving operation is getting in the water and getting out of the water. Once you're in the water, it's great. But anytime it's real rough, we have a crane, you have to lift the sub out of the water against the ship, and you've got 2 vessels moving on the ocean together. We've never had a mishap doing this, but that's when you have to be careful.
It's hazardous if you're not careful. I think the biggest thing we have to do is to maintain a sense of awareness, and we all have our own specific jobs, and we stick to those jobs, and when it becomes routine, it's less hazardous.
Oceanography is one of those things that's glamorous when you read about it or when you watch television programs about it, but mostly it's really hard work, and it can be extremely unpleasant a lot of the time, because when you get sick, the first thing you think of is you're afraid you're going to die, and then after a little while, you're afraid you won't.
Seasickness is one of the smaller worries about going down in a sub. The main problem is that if anything goes wrong, there's no rescue down there, as Richard Slater and his son well know.
In the early I guess it was 1970. And we're salvaging a boat, which we did. The boat got to the surface, and while they were tying lines to the boat broke loose. It came down and landed on top of us.
Well, the boat started descending in a random fashion and hit the submarine right on a nut, right about here, and cracked the porthole. Of course, this is better than an inch plexiglass, and because of the pressure, I think they were down about 200 feet, it imploded into my father's face. And the submarine sunk, and when the pressure equalized, he became semi-conscious. His eardrums were blown out, and he opened the hatch when there was about this much water in the submarine, and his person in the sub with him was pushing him to get out. They got out of the submarine. They never saw, well, they saw the other guy. He didn't make it, and my father swam to the surface some 240 feet. A fluke accident caused the death of one person. but my father survived. So obviously, I have a special interest in this job in preserving the life of my father, so we do everything we can to make sure that he's safe and sound, and he has been for well over 1,000 dives now, so we're pretty happy with that success rate.
There's a launch, which is always a little jarring, and of course submarines aren't terribly stable at the surface, so you roll around some, and it helps to hold on. And the sub gradually stops moving as much. It gets more and more stable, and pretty soon you're underwater. I mean, it doesn't take very long, just a minute or two.
And we're under. And going down.
I used to have a tendency to hold my breath. Well, you're looking out the porch, you know, and the water comes up and you sort of stop breathing. But that doesn't last very long.
Richard Slater constantly monitors the air and pressure gauges. By the time the sub hits bottom, the pressure will be more than 20 times what a human body could survive.
On the bottom, 460. Below surface, we just landed at 1,200 feet.
Roger that, 460, now visibility.
Very good.
What I do on these dives is I try, sometimes not too successfully, but I try my best to identify, estimate the size, and count every single fish that I see. An immense school of what looked like pygmies, I would say at least 2,000 fish.
Our biggest hazards is not being able to find the submarine. My job is to make sure the communications are running properly, make sure that we're keeping track of them, work closely with the captain here, making sure we stay with him.
Now he's going south, okay. Very large ophiuroids. Some of these, quite often associated with the basis of the crinoids. The first time I was ever in a sub, I remember I couldn't believe that I was in the submarine. And I kept feeling that really I was just in a big aquarium. Oceanographers are rather like men in a balloon, floating over the surface of a cloud-covered Earth, trying to figure out what the surface of the Earth is like. And the way they figure it out is they lower a bucket on a rope and they drag it around for a while and they haul it back up into the balloon, and whatever comes up in the bucket is what they use to figure out what the surface is like.
240.
There are still lots of things to be discovered, lots of species, lots of fishes and invertebrates that no one has ever seen, and we still don't have a very good idea about how things really work in the sea.
Up top, the unknown is a little more pressing. They don't have an exact idea of where the sub is or where it will be surfacing. Should it surface underneath them, the results would be disastrous.
20 feet, flying now. Surface. Whoa! Return.
There you go.
Recovering the sub, even given all that we've seen, turns out to be the most hazardous part of this operation. The sub's air supply allows only a small safety cushion, but its rendezvous with the mothership has to be slowly and meticulously orchestrated. In seas as heavy as this, a choppy collision could mean disaster, or drowning for David Stein and Richard Slater.
You got it. Up, please.
Mission accomplished.
3rd floor. We're home. Did you have a nice trip?
Hey, what can I say?
Fish?
Saw lots of fish.
It went pretty well. We got everything that we had to get. We found some habitat that we didn't find last year. So I'd say it was a success.
It will take years of research like this to understand the mysteries of the seafloor, and years more to determine if the ocean environment could actually be a friendly place for us.
There are plenty of times when the weather is really nice, and you had a good day and you got your samples, and it's near the end of the cruise and you're going to be going home, and the sun's setting, and it's just nice to be there.